We're live.
We're live. Hello, Facebook community, who's ever out there listening to us at the moment. No one yet, so hopefully people will pop in. Maybe we should give them a couple minutes. We know we're a little late. We hate time zones and got confused, but we're here. That's what matters. We're here to chat.
Exactly right. We actually just were waiting for people to log on, and that's why we're a little late.
That's it. Yeah. That's why. It's totally fine.
Oh, look at that. We've got a person.
We have a person.
Oh, there she is.
Oh, it's Kenzie. Yay, our one and only fan.
Yay. Oh, no, we've got 3.
Well, cool. We'll let you guys come trickle in. Hopefully it's lunchtime for some of you or break time, or you can kind of just listen in, or I believe you'll be able to watch the link afterwards. So even if you couldn't make it live, that's cool.
That's right. We switch positions.
Hello. Hi, ladies. So for some, I just want to let people know in the comments, if I don't call you out by name, it's because some people are just showing up as Facebook user.
Yep.
And not a name. So I just want you to let you know if we're not being rude by not calling you by your names. All right. Well, let's start. I'll first kind of introduce myself, and then I'll let you, and then we'll get going. So, my name is Berit Young. I'm a Stronger You coach, obviously. Been with Stronger You for about 2 years. I'm also a registered dietitian, and I've been a dietitian for about 7 years. I'm pregnant. I'm due at the end of September with my first baby. So that's kind of my real big life event going on right now. So it's kind of fitting in our topic today when we're talking about body neutrality, because bodies change when you're pregnant. But anyways, that's me.
Well, hi, Berit. And this is the first time you and I have had the opportunity to do a Facebook Live together. So
I know. Yes.
I am Adina Gillum, and I have been a coach with Stronger You since I think September. It might have been October, but I think September. It's gone by so fast. And prior to Stronger You, I was a therapist and have been for a very long time.
Yeah.
Say almost 20 years, and which makes me feel old when I think that I've done anything for 20 years. And while it's not even in the same category, I did my first Olympic distance triathlon yesterday. So
my gosh. That's huge.
Yeah, it was fun. It was awesome. I was one of the things I was so excited about was that not only had I been training for the event, but because I put in enough time training, like I'm not sore, I feel good. So I feel like my investment really paid off to be in the best shape that I could be for this event. So
oh my gosh, that's amazing. Yeah. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I can barely run 3 miles straight these days. So the fact that you just did a triathlon is mind-blowing to me.
It was really, really fun. I made a big mistake, which so far, but I've done 2 triathlons, and each one I did a sprint and an Olympic. And the sprint, I messed up by trying to leave the transition area without a bib on and had to run back in. And then I tried to leave the wrong way. And this time I left my cycling shoes in the car. So when it came to cycling, I had to do it in my sneakers. So that was kind of a bummer. But
oh my gosh.
Anyway, got it done.
You did it. You finished it.
Did it.
That's awesome. Good for you.
So Berit, when we talk about body and food neutrality,
yes,
what do you think of?
Okay, couple things. So food neutrality for me, I guess one big kind of overarching thought I get is not giving food the power to make me feel emotionally one way or another. And that's kind of separate of nostalgic feelings. I love my mom's meatloaf and my nana's pies, that kind of normal emotional connection to food. But in general, to not allow food to make me feel kind of good or bad as a person, or as my or kind of describing my day or my meal. Obviously, food can physically make us feel one way or another, but emotionally, I think of food neutrality that way. Body neutrality for me is really kind of respecting, and even more so now, and even for you, like the fact that you could physically just do that, but respecting my body and what it can do for me every day, what it does do for me every day, and just embracing it and thinking it that way instead of looking at it as all the little nitpicky things I want to change about it, but really understanding the beauty of essentially truly what it allows me to do every day. And in this case, grow a
Absolutely.
human, or I could get on my bike the other day and go for a bike ride, or just things like that. How about you? I'm curious about your view on both of those, food and
Yeah.
body neutrality.
Well, it's interesting because I hadn't even thought of food neutrality that way, but that is so true that
Yeah,
it's like we assign a value to food and then we project that value onto us for eating that particular food. Right. So let's say,
right.
like, if you have decided that ice cream is bad, which I don't know if we can be friends if people think ice cream is bad, but
Yeah,
if you think ice cream is a bad food and then you eat it, what room do you leave for judging your, like, you're going to judge yourself as bad if you're eating something that you've already assigned as bad.
right.
So for me, I hadn't thought about that part of it, but to me, it's about viewing foods that way, like assigning some moral value to a food that whether it's clean eating or not clean eating, and when you and I were talking about this, one of the things that I had thought of was, um, who I think I told you, I have like a terrible reaction to raw garlic. It's not
Yes.
even an allergy. I just feel bad. So
Hmm.
for me, garlic is not a great food. But is garlic a good food? Well, sure. It's got so many good healing properties and um, it makes foods taste really good. But for me, it just doesn't make me feel good.
Right.
So that was like my thought as I was thinking about food neutrality and body
I love
neutrality. The
that.
more I've kind of looked into it to understand it, because I had been pretty familiar with the body positivity movement, but really wanted to get clear about how it differed from what body neutrality is. And it's really like an idea that you don't have to love your body. You
Mhm.
don't have to think, you don't have to find it flawless. It just
Right.
is. And
Right.
like you said, it maybe appreciating it for what it does rather than what it looks like, and it
Yeah.
not being the main way that we identify or view, like, gauge our sense of worth.
Yes. I like that. How that's not how we identify our self-worth. I love that. So powerful.
I actually, let me see. I don't know if I switch off of this, if you can still see me, but I wanted to share something. Let me see if I can find it. Can you still see me?
No.
Okay. Oh,
Oh,
and the volume went
and
weird.
now you're scratchy.
I found,
Oh,
uh-oh.
now you're the signal's not great. Can't hear you. Oh no,
Oh,
we
it's
lost you.
back.
There she
Maybe
is.
that's what happens when I tried to do something fancy,
Tried to be
but it didn't
fancy.
work. So, um, can't be
All
fancy.
good.
We already learned that when we were previewing this, but I did find on Instagram there
Yeah.
is and I'll double check it. I might try again towards the end of this to pull it back up, but I think it was called Beyond Beautiful Body. It was at Beyond Beautiful Body, and it's an Instagram page devoted to body neutrality. So they have things like mantras for
Oh.
letting go of that. Yeah. If I was on my computer, like I should have been, I had it all ready to share with you guys. But I'm seriously time zone challenged. So
That's
sorry.
okay. I'm sure you can input it once this is done in the
Yeah,
comments,
I
or
hope so.
something. People can go
Yeah.
back and look.
Yeah.
Someone said hi to me. Hi, but it just says Facebook user, so I don't know who you are, but hi. Um, okay, so and for people that are here in the chat, I would love to for you to kind of chime in with what you think food neutrality, body neutrality is for you. So we
Mm-hmm.
can talk about it, share it. But we'll kind of break it up. So first we'll talk about food neutrality just a little more. And yeah, it sounds great. And kind of an overarching goal for us to get to, but kind of how to do that. And I think a stronger you, obviously people join for various goals. But one thing that I always see on their intake form is like things you want to change. One, relationship with food. I don't know if people really know what that means until they get into the nitty gritty of it, but I view food neutrality as that is your relationship with food. And I do talk to my clients a lot about this, but essentially, and I'm just looking at notes, how I'm looking down, is, when looking at food, and I think that we kind of already identified that, like what we said earlier about what it means to us, but taking away, and I know that we've all said it, heard it, but saying, I did really good today, or I did really bad this weekend, I did really bad today, but I'm back on track. And so that language is very harmful. And I don't know if people, even when they say it, realize that, but it very much can be, and very much is pulling you further away from that healthy relationship you want with food. And so what I really work with my clients on is like completely not even saying good or bad when we're talking about food, even if it's like the healthiest of foods, or foods that are horrible for our health, like to just take those words away, good or bad, because what that does is, if you realize it or not, like we mentioned, it attaches a meaning to you as well. Like, I did good today. Okay, did you go volunteer? Did you help the
That's
homeless?
right.
I don't know. So like, kind of, you did good today because you ate your green veggies. Well, okay, let's kind of talk more about why that's a decision you're proud of versus you did good today, and vice versa. I was bad today. I was bad this weekend. Well, is it because you enjoyed pizza? Let's kind of talk about maybe why you did that over what was planned versus just, slapping a stamp on like today was a good day or bad day.
That is so true, because I think, again, why are we putting so much weight into that decision when you've clearly, and I should say more than likely, made 1,000 decisions that day and showed up to other relationships in your life in a really positive way, or maybe you parented really well, or you kicked butt at something at work, and then you do something with your nutrition that doesn't make you proud, and you like, all of that goes away.
Right. And so I think like, you're not good if you ate broccoli as a snack. And you're not bad if you had a cupcake for dessert. Like, those are essentially just choices, and it's just food. And that's what I really push with clients too, is like, let's just look at food as food, right?
Absolutely.
Let's not demonize the fact that Cheetos are absolutely delicious, because they are. And let's not say you were good because you ate something that like physically made you feel good or proud of yourself. So just taking those two words in the vocabulary away from describing how your day went in terms of eating, I think could be a really good start. And then like searching for other ways to describe how you think your day went in terms of choices.
Yep.
Yeah.
It made me think that sometimes I do a lot of couples therapy. And one of the things that I see a lot is, I'm going to just use like the most stereotypical example, but I actually see this in therapy often, is one partner will be like, let's say their hobby is reading and their partner's hobby is playing video games on their phone. Well, the person who's reading thinks that the other person who plays video games on their phone, like, they can't believe that's how they're spending their time.
Right.
And it's like, what we do is we decide that our value system is better, where it's like, you're both trying to do the right, like, you're both trying to kind of escape the world. You're just doing it through reading. And maybe because, like, again, like, as a society, we have assigned that reading is a healthy habit versus playing video games on your phone, not really seen necessarily in that way. But it's really about like, just recognize, it's not even about what the thing is, but even recognizing it, like, wait a sec, I'm making an assignment of judgment here. And we do the same thing with food, and we are victims of that victims, but you know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
the
sure.
recipients of that. So I think some of this difficulty in achieving that or the food neutrality is the messages we learned as kids about what foods are good or bad, or
Mhm.
from previous coaches or Facebook groups or whatever, that, you've got people that are like, oh no, that has sugar in it. I don't eat any sugar,
Right, right, right.
that
Yes.
kind of thing.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. Right, and what that'll do is it will continually perpetuate this feeling of, again, identifying foods as good or bad. So, like, going into the bad foods, if have a whole beautiful day planned out of what you wanna eat, and you feel really good about hitting your macros, and something happens, and that completely changes, and you just say, "Oh, screw it. I was already bad today. I'm just gonna, keep on being bad," or something.
yeah,
And so, again, that perpetuates that unhealthy eating or like relationship with food, and that now that you are bad, you have to continue to be bad all day with your eating, when really it was just like one meal, and it was, not what you had planned, and actually made me feel kind of crappy, or actually maybe it was really delicious and you didn't regret it at all. But it doesn't mean that, like, then you have to continually the rest of the day put this judgment on yourself of, I
mhm,
was bad, so I need to continue to be bad. And it's just, if you can just, again, take the power away from the food in that way, it just makes a really big difference on how you even view the rest of your day. It doesn't have to continue to be
absolutely,
something that you feel very ashamed of. You have the power to change it as well.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And this is,
And
oh, go ahead, go ahead.
oh no, go ahead.
I was just going to say sometimes just, and this is sort of an aside to that, but if you find yourself struggling with getting into that mindset of, oh, I've done something bad and now the day's ruined, that I actually suggest to people break the day into 3 sections or quarters and see it as
Mm,
like, so maybe, like morning
I
to
like
11,
that.
11 to 4, and 4 on. And
Ooh,
that way, like, if you feel like, man, I didn't do so well with my choices in the first block, you still have 2 more blocks to go that day. It's not like you have to throw the whole day away, and you get the opportunity to just sort of recapture some of it.
I like that. So
Yeah.
it's
So,
not just like looking at it as one whole day. It's increments,
hmm,
possibilities to kind of, ooh, I like that a lot. I'm gonna steal that.
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
I like
I
that.
think I shared with you that several years ago I had a CrossFit coach who was really, really particular about there being good foods and bad foods.
Mhm.
And there was really a struggle there because there was definitely, people were shamed for eating certain foods. I remember somebody came into the gym with peanut butter and she actually told them to leave because it wasn't paleo.
Oh my
And what it was doing was perpetuating this culture where people were like binging on foods that they thought she wouldn't approve of when she
wow.
wasn't there. And so, again, like, it just speaks to how powerful it is to assign value to foods, that it
Yes.
just really does perpetuate some unhealthy behaviors around eating.
Yes, and I think that's really what it stems from. The food neutrality and the good or bad food, there's such a deeper meaning behind it about why it's so important to get away from it. And instead of saying I was bad, I had a donut today or whatever, instead of looking at how did you eat the donut? Let's talk about that.
Mhm.
So were you kind of standing up in the break room, scarfing the donut down because you were hungry, you've been restricting yourself too much, you really wanted it. I mean, whatever the reasons,
Yep.
how were you eating that food? Or were you on vacation or meeting a friend out over the weekend and you went to like this special donut shop and you got a donut and you sat down and you ate the donut and it was so good. So I think instead of just saying donut was good or bad or I did good or bad, well, what was your environment like while eating it? Let's discover that and discuss that. Not that you had a donut, because you should forever
Absolutely.
have donuts. Donuts are delicious, or
Yes.
whatever. So, um,
And if
looking
you,
for
let's say you ate that donut and you were with your best friend and you laughed the entire time, like belly laughter, how could you even, like, why? It just detracts from that moment to then feel bad about what you ate in that moment.
Right. Yes, that's so true. It takes you away from just being present,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I challenge everyone that's trying to get to this food neutrality to not identify the food as good or bad, but more or less the why behind the eating it, the how, the environment, and kind of the different underlying emotions that go on underneath the choosing to eat certain food. And maybe it's just because you want it and you feel okay with that choice, and that's okay. It doesn't make you a good or bad person. It's just a choice you made that day. And to
Yep.
get used to kind of just going with the flow in that way as well. And sure, I mean, will you feel better not eating 3 donuts standing up in the break room? Yeah, you'll feel better following the plan you had for the day physically. So also paying attention to, not, "Oh, I'm so mad at myself that I ate X," but, physically how let's pay attention to how certain foods make us feel physically, not necessarily
Absolutely. Like
always
the garlic.
Yes.
Because, like,
Yes.
I really, every time I'm like, if I taste something and I can really, really strongly taste the garlic, I know I should stop. And
Right.
every once in a while, I'm like, oh, but it's so delicious. I just want one more bite of it or something like that. And
Yeah,
every
yeah.
every time I'm like, oh man, I feel terrible. Why did I do that? And it's
Right.
not, again, it's not because garlic is bad. It's because it doesn't do well for me. And when I prioritize that, like, is this food good or bad, or but how does this food make me feel? I feel
Yes.
like I always make better choices.
Yes. And I have people ask me all the time, like, as a dietitian, they ask me these questions like, "What do you think about dairy?" And I say, "I don't know. How do you feel when you eat it?" That's my first question. How
Yep.
do you feel? Because if you feel fine, like physically, you can keep eating dairy.
Yep.
If you don't physically, pull back or stop eating. And same thing with like gluten. So I think it's like the same thing as you're mentioning about the garlic is,
Yep.
yeah, kind of trying to separate the emotion from the food
Yep.
rather, you know, the physical from the food. So
Yep.
cool.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, now on to body neutrality. We kind of touched on that. Um, so I'm curious, how do you? Because I mean, I personally all have female members, and obviously I'm a female myself, and it's something that is, I think, just naturally very hard for females in this world to grasp. Um, so I'm curious how you kind of work towards your clients in this topic.
I find the idea of, I mean, I think body neutrality is so hard. And I think, especially for women, although I don't know for men, because I obviously, like, I can only speak for women. So
True.
I should probably not say that. But I do think, from a societal perspective, there's so much pressure for women to look a certain way, and then to actually, like, maybe even a pressure to feel bad if they don't look that way.
Hmm.
Um, so, when I'm working with my members, one of the things that I want them to know is that, this idea that the body does not define you, your body does not define you, and to really also think about the ways that your body showed up for you that day.
Yeah, I
So,
love that.
this idea that, like, and I think the best thing, or like the perfect um, example of this, is if you have somebody who wakes up feeling fantastic and they feel so great about their body, and they step on the scale and it's not what they want to see, they can erase in a second all those positive thoughts they just had about their body.
Mhm.
And when you think about the power that network, again, like talking about the power we're giving, that we're giving away power to a digital number that some, like, inanimate object has just given us, which is a measurement of everything, right? A measurement of foods we've eaten in the last 24 hours, of our blood, of our muscle, of our bone. And yet, if that scale doesn't say what we want it to, like, even if we've just spent 10 minutes thinking about all the ways that our clothes fit better and we feel great, and, like, erases all of that.
Yes. Yeah. And I think I told you this. I did this exercise with my clients of before you even step on the scale, I want you to think how you feel about yourself that morning and the decisions you've made recently. We won't even necessarily say the day before,
Yeah.
but just kind of recently, the changes that you've made. How do you feel about yourself? And have that in your mind first, and then step on the scale. And just like sometimes I joke with my clients and I'm like, then just flick the scale off and move on.
Yep.
Because it's a number. It's a number, and it just measures the gravitational force back down to the earth in our bodies. And you just have to kind of keep it there. So I urge other people out there that are listening to this now or will listen to it to do that same exercise, because it can be very, very powerful.
And I would say
think,
write it down, like have
yeah,
the thought and log it, because it is so easy to then negate those positive thoughts that you had. And if you have it written down, it makes it a little harder to do that.
that's true. I really like that. Write it down, because then you can quickly forget.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or you tell yourself like, that wasn't, I don't know. We're really, that internal voice is louder than we think it is.
Oh yeah. Yes, and it's not easy. We're not here telling you like try it once and you'll be fine. And then,
Right.
it's a work in progress, and there's many layers to that, but it's a start, and it can be really empowering and helpful if you just continue to practice that. And like you said, write it down so
Yep.
you can see it afterwards.
Yep.
And I think something else that's important that I've kind of just been paying attention to recently is this comparison game we all do. We compare to how different people look, maybe on the Stronger You Facebook page, or celebrities, or your friend, or your sister, whoever. And I think just one really easy way to pull yourself back from that is like, you are not that person. So you are not going to look like this person. And it's just this simple concept of like, yeah, I'm never going to look like J-Lo. I'm not.
Wait, what?
I know. Well, no matter what I do, I just won't. And I think
Yeah.
telling yourself that too, of like, you are your own body. Your body is going to look different than literally every other person. So to try not to compare, I think that'll help with the body neutrality as well. And we're all everyone's here at Stronger You to make a difference in how their body looks or feels, and that's perfectly okay. Nothing wrong with that. And I always urge my clients to say, okay, like, we want to change. There's nothing wrong with that. Let's just like put that aside on kind of how we want to look and how we want to change. And let's first focus on like all those behaviors and habits that'll help us get there, and not like what we're going to look like when we get there, because that'll happen eventually. Or maybe you won't get there, but you'll identify all these other things and you'll still feel so good. Like when people ask, what should my goal weight be, or all this? And I'm like, I always like say, why don't we just wait on that? Let's just like start with the first 5 pounds, see how you feel. So I think taking your goals away from numbers and like physicality and how you visually look sometimes, and sometimes focus on your day-to-day behaviors, your movement, your water, your food choices, how you feel physically. Like, just focus on those, because everything else will follow. And so let's not really like worry about that, because it's just wasted energy.
Absolutely. And I sometimes tell my members that the scale weight going down is almost a byproduct of what you're learning within Stronger You. It's really not
Yes.
the goal per se, right? I mean, I think for some people it is, and that's totally okay if your goal is like, I want to see a certain number. But really, from a coaching perspective, I'm so excited when I see somebody say, this is the first time I've gone on vacation and even thought about like, am I getting protein every day?
Right.
Or I walked on the beach for 6 miles. I didn't even feel tired. Like my body pulled me through that, and I'm so excited.
Yeah.
So remembering that it's like, and maybe this is not I don't want to say a controversial thing to say, but like, I think for most of the coaches here, you as a member getting smaller is not our primary goal, right? Like,
Right.
it's not like we want to, like, that your body's not okay where it is.
Right.
But if you are setting a goal, then our job is to align your actions with your goal. Like, we're not setting that goal for you.
Yeah. I love
So,
that.
and I think that the body neutrality part of it comes in with, can I be okay with my body here? And then checking in with yourself, like maybe a few weeks later, can I be okay with my body here? Am I still thinking of all the things that it does well? And,
Yeah.
maybe I still see places that I want to improve on, and that's okay.
Right. Yeah, I think is this body letting me live the life I want to live? Do I feel
Yeah,
confident? And I can, tell you from a coach's perspective, the clients that I work with that are very thankful for their body and positive about what their body can do for them. And of course, we all have bad days. Like, not saying you have to be this angelic creature. You're human, but in general, that kind of aren't so negative towards themselves and how they look and pick apart themselves are always more successful. And I just think it's the power of your mind and
absolutely.
and like the intentions you set for yourself. And I don't know if that sounds too granola for people, but I'm telling you, anecdotal data from a coach's perspective, it is so black and white, from the individuals that pick themselves apart to the ones that don't. It really makes a big difference too in how you just approach changing for whatever reason or however you want to change. It really
Absolutely.
makes a big impact on that. So it's just something to think about on your journey here with Stronger You as well. Is, am I being really crappy and negative to myself? I actually saw something on Instagram the other day that said, if I talked to my friends the way I talk to myself, like, I wouldn't have any friends left.
Absolutely.
And it's so true. Like, can you
Yeah.
imagine talking to your friends of like,
Yeah.
they tell you something great they did that day and you just like knock it down like, oh, that doesn't matter.
Right.
You still have, wherever fat there, or I don't know. So it really, and also I think too, when you talk positive about yourself and your body, it will continue to lead you to like do really positive things throughout the day for yourself
Absolutely.
versus being angry and ashamed at yourself.
And that, I think, is such a big thing, that shame is rarely a catalyst for action. Like,
Ooh, I like
shame
that.
mostly shuts us down. And
Right.
so if you are moving through and allow that shame to take over, you are setting yourself up to just, like, perpetuate what just happened. And
Yeah.
so I think that's a big thing. Like, when and maybe moving the needle from having that shameful feeling, and you recognize, like, wow, I'm having this, how do I break out of it? It's not about,
Mhm.
like, never feel shame. It's about
Right.
teaching yourself, hey, I'm having this feeling. Do I really have to take this feeling on?
Yeah.
Like, okay, using the example, I ate a donut. Why am I feeling shameful of that? What is there to feel shame about?
Right. Right.
um, it's a donut, right? Or whatever it may be. Now, I do think, and may sound like I'm speaking now out of both sides, but there
Mhm.
is a definite pride that comes with having a plan and then knowing at the end of the day you stuck to your plan,
Yes.
right? Like, there's definitely that kind of, like, wow, regardless of what, if you had to, well, okay, now I'm talking all over the place, but bear with me for just a sec. If I planned for a donut, would I still feel bad if
Right.
I ate it, let's say, than if it's an unplanned donut? And
Right.
that's like the perfect reason to think about, the donut does not hold the value of good or bad. It's
Mm.
absolutely in here.
I love that realization. Yeah. Right. Either way, you're still eating the donut,
Exactly.
right? But it's just that the mindset you're putting yourself in before eating it. Ooh,
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
A donut's a donut. Yeah.
Donut's a donut. We need to make that a shirt or something.
So deep. If
So
anyone,
deep.
you can take any message from this Facebook Live, it's that.
A donut is a donut.
A donut is a donut.
Barrett, I have a question for you. When you
Yeah.
think about, like, whether it's food neutrality or body neutrality, and some of the messages that you feel like the early messages that you got, um,
Hmm.
like, what can you point to anything that you think was meaningful, like good or bad, in terms?
Yeah. That's a great question. I would say I was lucky to have a mom who just really showed me healthy behaviors. She exercised a lot. She was strong. Would see her lift weights.
Oh, that's awesome.
She always exercised. My dad too. We always had healthy food at home. It was never this, um, you know, I don't know, kind of this like there was no kind of diet food in our house. It was just
Hmm.
kind of all whole food. So
Hmm.
I was lucky enough to see that as a role model. On the other side of that, I had a sister with an eating disorder, so I kind of saw where else it could go. And I just remember saying to my mom, like, "Mom, you never have to worry about me being that way. I love food too much." I was
Yeah.
very little, so um,
Yeah.
she kind of overpowered that. But anyway, so I kind of saw both sides,
Yeah.
not both sides, but like the healthier version and then not. And then I also just, I don't know if this is gonna sound good or bad, but I was never like an incredibly small petite person. I was just kind of always average, or I don't know how to say that, but my point is I never had this battle of within myself of being like up, down, up, down, up, down. I just
Hmm.
kind of was always um, one way. I don't know
Hmm.
how that sounds, but I think that somehow maybe just helped my development. And I say that
Hmm.
because I do know some women, or heard some women before say, I used to be so small until X, or I was so little as a child until X, and I can understand how that can kind of mess up your own body distortion of yourself. But I would say, really, generalization, it was truly my mom,
Yeah.
watching how she lived. And to me, that just like was ingrained, and that was just normal to me. You always exercise, you lifted weights, you ate healthy,
Yeah.
you
That's
had
great.
treats too. And I mean, so what about you?
I would, it's interesting because I think that, like, in some ways, very similar. My mom and dad both were very, very healthy eaters, but not like you're saying, they didn't have like diet food per
Right.
se. It was, both of my parents came from Poland. So I was a
Mm,
first generation American. So the way
that's
that they ate was
interesting.
like not really any processed foods. So we
Yep.
had, when I think about like the quintessential meal at my house, it was like roasted chicken, a big salad, um, probably some kind of like maybe a broccoli or
Hmm.
something like that. So we always like in my mom's house, we always had to eat salad first before we could eat anything else with our meal,
Yeah.
which is great because I absolutely love salad still to this day. It's probably taught me that. But the other side of the coin was that, and I'm totally about to throw my mom under the bus here. She's,
Don't watch them.
yeah, nobody shared this with her. Um, that she was pretty critical, not of my weight, but of other people's weight. And
Mm,
so there definitely was, I would hear her talk about people sometimes in a way that I noticed their weight. Right. So all of a sudden I realized, oh, wait, people like when somebody looks at you, they make a judgment about you based on your weight.
mm.
That was sort of what I like as a kid. And it scared me because,
Oh,
like,
wow.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I just was like, oh my gosh, if my mom can talk about people that, and it wasn't like she was like gossiping. She might just say,
Sure.
like, oh, wow, that person put weight on today, which I don't think is that uncommon in that generation.
Hmm. So yeah, I agree.
But it definitely kind of made me just less comfortable, like that it did assign a value that if you're this size, you're okay. And if you're
Yeah.
this size, you're not okay. And
Yeah.
so having as a teenager, and I was an athlete, so always and I'm 5 feet tall and I'm just more of like a stocky athletic build, and definitely saw my like lanky tall 5'9" friends and didn't understand why I couldn't have legs all the way to the ceiling.
Right. Right.
But yeah, like, so for me there was definitely a little bit of a struggle of disconnecting that there is that body neutrality, and still to this day there are times where I have to really have
Sure.
a talk with
Yeah.
myself, like a low body image day.
Oh yeah, I think everyone, yeah, myself included. There's of course there's still going to be days that way
Yeah,
where you compare and but I think the goal here, and with food neutrality too, right, is
for sure.
they're few and far between than before,
Yes,
and they can kind of quickly pass. You can kind of quickly notice it, identify it, feel it, and then like having hopefully let it quickly pass
absolutely.
by doing whatever internal work you can do. Yeah.
And what I find is that that also makes other people's statements about the food that I'm eating like less uh I don't know what the right word is. Like I don't have to take it in. So if let's say, I just to use my mom again as an example and she didn't say this, but let's say she was like, "Oh, are you going to eat that again?" Right? Like there was a time where I might even stew on that or think about it. And
Mhm.
now I'm like, "Yep,
Right,
right?
right.
Like yeah, actually I am."
Yeah.
And I she's visiting right now and I was like she made a joke about, "Wow, do you guys have ice cream all the time?" And I was like, "Nope, but when I do, I make sure I have it like it's planned." So I just make sure that whatever, like
Yeah.
explaining to her a
Yeah.
little bit about the thing. Um, but yeah, so it's interesting how it can be really challenging to shed some of those the messaging that we got early on.
Very much.
And yeah,
Mhm. Oh, yeah. I hear that. And I
yeah,
think we're learning how big and important role models are when we're growing up that maybe we don't realize, and how little things can stick. Little things
absolutely.
people
Like
say.
and even like I was saying that if we're talking about our own bodies in a negative way, your children are hearing that. So you may
Right,
be like, no, 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 I never say this to my kids. My kids, I tell them they're beautiful. But if you look in the mirror and go like, ugh, I hate how I look, they're
right,
hearing that.
right. Yeah,
And like I think that the way to ensure that your children have good body and food development is to really own that yourself and again like speak kindly about yourself, not just in front of them, because if you're doing it in private, you're still doing it in front of them.
yes. Yes, that's true. That's a good point. I love
And
that. That's a good lesson. One that I will now continue to think about. Yeah.
yeah, and it's so easy to do, to just be so hard on ourselves.
It is. Yeah. I mean, we're kind of the safe person to do that with in a weird way.
Yep.
Then that doesn't make it okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So I think like the way that we talk about other people, the way we talk about ourselves, I don't know if you were to assign like a starting point for really taking that body neutrality, like start a starting step, any thoughts of where you'd start somebody?
I would start by identifying, and what I said at the beginning, like really writing down, because there's power in writing things down. Identifying what your body does do for you every day. Because I also think when you know that and feel that way, um, your choices also change throughout in your habits and behaviors because you almost want to like take care of it a little more too. So I would start there of like what what does it do for you every day? And this just may sound so basic, but even sometimes when I go for walks,
Yeah.
maybe there's thoughts of like I should be doing more, I should be doing this workout instead of this walk. But I just think it could be something so simple like I'm so glad I have these two legs that I can go out and go for this walk right now. So simple, so basic, but I think that's really where it starts
Yeah,
is,
absolutely.
is there. So that would be my recommendation for someone is just to write down everything your body does do for you.
I think that's such a great idea, and I
Yeah.
think I'm going to start doing that at
Yeah.
least more regularly. And for those of you that are in session, the app is such a great place to do that. Like I think
Yes.
we see it sometimes. People think like, you know what, like it's a place to put your macros, but I would
Mm,
actually say it's even a greater place to put how you're feeling about the foods that you've been eating and these kinds of things
totally.
in yourself. So utilizing that allows your coach to truly coach you beyond just the numbers.
Yes. I love that. And I urge my clients to do that all the time. Like use this as your journal.
Yeah.
Or just as a way for you to get things off your chest. Yeah.
Yeah.
How about you? What would you say to
I
clients starting on the body neutrality journey, if you will?
I mean, I think what you said is like pretty right on to what I would that like the way that I approach it too is really acknowledging the efficiency and function of the body,
Hmm.
and uh and remembering that like you can love your body and want it to change. Like
Yeah.
those, so it's not like, I think that sometimes this idea of like with I think body positivity can be very much like, no, I'm just going to learn to love my body as is. And I think body neutrality is maybe I love it, maybe I don't, but I can live in it the way it is and still want it to change. It's not like an
Mhm.
either or thing.
I
So,
love that.
but I love this idea of even taking the simple things like I held my baby. I mean, I don't have a baby, but like for somebody, I held
Yeah.
my baby for 3 hours while like I did something like that is a feat. That is not an easy thing to do. But that, again, that same person might feel bad because they didn't jump on the Peloton that day.
Right.
So it's like we are so good at hearing the negative message and not so
Yeah.
good at seeking out the ways that we are really showing up in a great way.
Right. Yeah. I love that. Perfect.
And I think the food neutrality piece, it's very much about getting in touch with how does this food make me feel?
Hmm.
If you are somebody who just like loves ice cream, but every time you eat ice cream, you have like, bowel issues, like yes, maybe ice cream is not a good food for you to eat.
Right.
Um Maybe something else, the other thing that comes to mind for me is steak. Like I love
Mm.
a good steak, but it really doesn't do well for me. Like I just for some reason my body doesn't like to digest red meat like that. So like on occasion maybe I will, but it doesn't mean the food is good or bad. For somebody else, it's like a really high protein, high iron,
Yeah.
um, great thing to have. And so just being in touch with that. How does this food make me feel?
Yeah.
Rather than assigning a value to it.
Right. And I think too, you know, to just develop more on what you said, and if it is making you feel this, I did good or I did bad, be more curious about that. Like, why? Why am I feeling bad
Yeah.
eating X? Is it because I didn't fully enjoy it because I was standing up in my kitchen scarfing it down? Is it because I was trying to distract and cope? And I didn't really even want this pizza, but I'm just like so used to eating it when I'm stressed.
Yep.
Is it because I'm used to with this diet culture of me telling myself I can't eat the donut or, um, or words from someone growing up or, am I restricting myself too much? Am I too hard on myself? Am I, all these things. So I would just continue to be more curious as to why the food is also making you feel one way emotionally. I think it actually has nothing to do with the food. I like to tell my clients that too. The food is just food.
Yep.
There. Some food make us feel great and are grown from the earth. Some are created in labs, like whatever. Food is just food, but it's more or less of, you know, like when we take that power away from it, I think that can be really powerful too
Yeah.
for us of having food neutrality. Because it just is,
Absolutely.
it's there, um, and just comes down to a choice. So yeah.
You reminded me of something when you said that I think fits into the messaging around food. And I hear it a lot, which is, did I earn that today? Or the justification of like, well, I earned it. And it's like, again, like separating
Yeah.
yourself from that. Did you earn it? Like, what constitutes earning whatever food it is?
Yeah. Yeah, and I like to challenge my clients with that of being like, "I'm all about rewards, let's do that, but let's make them non-food related."
Yeah, absolutely.
Um,
Absolutely.
let's, like, really continually trying to stress separating such a strong emotional attachment to some foods, and not that you're going to feel one way or another when eating a delicious food, but it shouldn't be a go-to for, like you said, earning it, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. It shouldn't hold that place in your life.
Well, and as soon as you've decided you've earned it, again, you're giving it a lot of power, because then it becomes a
Yes.
food that's worthy of being earned. Whereas really it's just a food.
Yes. Right.
Like, we
Exactly.
never earned the right to eat a salad, right? That's
Right.
not the kind of things that we tell ourselves.
Yeah, yeah. That's so true.
I don't know. Maybe I'll start just saying I earned everything and see
I
how
know.
it
I
goes.
earned this food today because I'm living and breathing and I'm hungry.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like, if you're going to earn it for just like showing up in your life as like a wonderful human being who,
Yes. Yes.
yeah.
Love that. Well, this was so fun. I hope
Yeah.
whoever jumped on or whoever's going to watch it later is feeling empowered in some way to look at food and their bodies differently.
Yes.
Um, feel free to reach out to either one of us to talk
Yeah.
more about it or right here. For some reason, I don't know if more people are posting their for some reason I can't post to the
Oh,
Facebook group right now. And maybe some setting I have, but I just wanted to let people know that came on.
oh. You mean like if you're on Facebook and try to post, it's not working?
I think like through this platform, if they can't
Oh.
post comments to Facebook group. So
Um, yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what that means, but just wanted to let people know.
Oh gosh.
I'm
I don't
putting
know.
it
Now
right
I'm hitting
now.
buttons. All right. Before we go, let me see if I can find this
Oh
thing that I
yes.
tried to find earlier. And if it messes up, sorry.
Okay. We'll be
All right.
patient and wait and see if it works.
Can you still hear me?
We can still hear you. Yes.
Oh no, it's doing
Oh, but now
it
it's
again.
staticky again. Oh.
All right. Oh, it doesn't like that. Okay, well, it's too
Well,
bad.
maybe
I
post it
will
when this
you know what?
ends.
Can you do that? Can I go back in and post it? Oh, on the Facebook page I can, I guess.
Yeah, I think under the comments you should be able to. I'm sure you can.
Okay.
Yeah.
I will find a way. But it's really like the messaging is I am so much more than my appearance. And I think
Mm,
that's the crux of body neutrality.
yes, I love that.
Yeah.
Yes, you are.
So
Your
it
values not
probably
based on
was a
what
lot
you
more.
eat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what you look like. Or what you
And
look
what
like.
you
And or what you look like. Yeah.
it has
That's
nothing to
right.
do with how you are as a person.
Yep. That is
And
so
I
true.
know easier said than done, but if you can continue to tell yourself that, I believe that it works.
I think so too. And it's a work like I seriously work on it every day in some one way or another. And whether
Yes.
it's comparing myself to somebody else or um and I'll say I know we have to get off here in a second, but I'm 47 and I am like sometimes just really like it strikes me so hard just going through just like natural aging process. And
Sure.
my friends and I joke about like, you know, things like wrinkles or like gray hair and things that I wish I would be like, I'm just going to let myself age so gracefully and it's not going to be and like make a difference. But you know what? On Thursday, I'm going to get my hair dyed because I don't want my gray hair yet. So
Right.
it happens in like so many different ways. It's not just about weight that we
Right. Yeah, yeah.
deal with this idea that we're like supposed to look a certain way or not giving in to like what our body is naturally doing. And I think that's okay too. Like I
Oh
think it's
yeah.
okay for me to dye my hair and
Sure, yeah. I think as
but
long as it doesn't go deeper than that.
exactly.
Right? Like it's like yeah, I mean, yeah, that's completely fine to want
Yeah,
to like you said, change things are completely fine to love your body and still want to change it, yada yada. As long as it doesn't really seep in deeper as this is now how you're valuing yourself as a person or
exactly.
just how you consistently feel about yourself every
Yeah,
day.
that's so
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
Because if my roots are showing, I don't think I'm not a good person.
Right. Exactly. I love that.
Usually.
A different takeaway from this Facebook Live. Yeah.
So the two big takeaways, roots are okay, and a donut is a donut.
And a donut's a donut. You're
Awesome.
welcome, everybody. Oh, I love it. Well, this is a blast. I loved chatting with you, even if
Yes,
it
you
was in
too.
your car.
No, that's okay. It actually works out. It works out
Yeah.
well, with the exception that I can't get on and show you guys those things. So as soon as I think I can, I will.
Perfect.
All right. Bye, Berit. So nice to talk to
Bye.
you.
Yes, you
Bye, everyone.
too. Bye-bye, everyone.